A linear number pattern or a linear sequence is a sequence that has a constant first difference. So that means that the same number is either being added or subtracted to each preceding term. To determine the first difference, what we do is we take term 2 and we subtract term 1 from it and we get an answer. Then we keep doing the same thing. We take term 3 minus term 2, term 4 minus term 3, etc. to determine our constant difference. Once we have our constant difference, we're able to then substitute that into our formula in order to determine our nth term or our general term or our formula for our sequence. So what we need to understand is what each letter in the formula stands for. So we have the formula for a linear sequence being Tn equals Bn plus C. So you can see that it's in the form of a linear expression, a linear equation, and that's how we work with our linear number patterns or our linear sequences. Tn equals Bn plus C. The Tn together means the term value. So that is the value of the term in the sequence. The B value is your constant difference. So that could be a positive value or a negative value. Your N is the position of the term in the sequence or the term number. And then your C is your constant. So what you're going to do is step number 1, you find your B value or your difference. So you start by finding your first difference, step number 1. Step number 2, you then substitute generally the first term information into your formula Tn equals Bn plus C. Number 3, you then solve for C to determine C's value. And then your final step is you take your B value that you determined in your first step, which was your difference. You take your C value that you just calculated or determined, and you put it into your formula. And then you have your formula in the form Tn equals Bn plus C. So in our first example, we have 8, 15, 22, 29, and 36. So our first step is we're going to find our difference. So we're going to see if it's a constant first difference. So in order to do that, I'm going to identify first of all that I have term number 1, term number 2, term number 3, 4, 5, etc. And now by determining the nth term or by determining the formula, what we're then able to do is we would be able to find out any or calculate any value in this particular sequence. So we would be able to determine term 1500 if we wanted to. Or we would also be able to, using our formula, determine whether the value 3642 was in fact in the sequence, for example. So I say term 2 minus term 1, so 15 minus 8 gives me 7. Then I say term 3 minus term 2, 22 minus 15 is 7, 29 minus 22 is 7, 36 minus 29 is also 7. Now what I'm going to do is just for ease of reference, I am going to circle my first term information so that I'm now able to substitute in. So I have my formula, Tn is equal to Bn plus C. This Tn is the term value, so I'm going to color code it. That's going to be the 8. Then I have my B, which is my difference, my constant difference, so that's going to be the 7. My N is my term number, and that is at the top, it's term number 1. And I am now going to determine or calculate the C value. So I'm going to substitute in, so Tn is 8, so that is equal to B, which is 7, times 1 plus C. So 8 is equal to 7 times 1, which is 7, plus C. So that means, therefore, that C is equal to 8 minus 7, which is 1. So now I've got my B value and I've got my C value, so I can now conclude, therefore, that this nth term is Tn is equal to, I take my B value, which is 7, N, and then that will be plus C. So in this case, the C value was 1. Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pause the video on this next sequence, 11, 18, 25, 32, and 39, and I would like you to try and determine the nth term of this sequence. Alright, let's quickly have a look. So our first step would be to find our difference. So that's the difference between the terms. So we say term 2 minus term 1. So 18 minus 11 is 7. 25 minus 18 is 7. 32 minus 25 is 7. And 39 minus 32 is also 7. I just want to quickly identify that I have the term numbers at the top. So now that I have my difference, I'm just going to work with the first term information. So I'm going to substitute this into my formula. Tn is equal to Bn plus C. Alright, so the term value is 11. So I'm going to substitute the term value in for the term value, which is 11, equal to my B value, which is 7, multiplied with my N value, which is 1, plus C. So I have 11 equal to 7 times 1, which is 7, plus C. So therefore, C is equal to, the 7 will go across, 11 minus 7, which is 4. So now I have my C value, and my C value in this case is 4. So I would therefore be able to conclude that Tn is equal to Bn. B's value is 7, so that is 7n plus C, and C's value is positive 4. The next question says, is 100 in the sequence 16, 20, 24, 28, and 32? Alright, so if we were to look at the sequence, this sequence is 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. So we know that we're actually adding 4 each time. So I would know that the next number would be 36, then 40, then 44, then 48, then and so on. And we would be able to then count or add 4 each time until we got to either the number 100 or it wouldn't be 100. When we're determining whether a number is in the sequence or not in the sequence, we are going to be determining the value of n. All right? Now, n is the term number. So the n value has to be a natural number for the value to be in the sequence. So n cannot be a decimal and n cannot be a fraction. So what we would do is we would take the number they're asking us to find out if it's in the sequence or not. We would take that number and we would substitute it into our general term or into our nth term. If once we solve that, we then get n by itself and n is a natural number, then that means that the number is in the sequence. If when we calculated it and we determined n's value and n came out as anything other than a natural number, so it came out as a negative number, a fraction, or a decimal, then that would mean that the number is not in the sequence. Let's start, and we're going to say find our difference. So that is term 2 minus term 1. So 20 minus 16, which is 4. 24 minus 20, which is 4. 28 minus 24, which is 4. And 4. We have term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, etc. And we're going to work with our first term information. Remember, we could work with our first term, we could work with our second term, it doesn't matter. Alright, so now we have Tn equals Bn plus C. So our term value is 16, so we substitute that in, equal to our B value, which is 4, multiplied with our n value, which is 1, plus C. So we have 16 equal to 4 times 1, which is 4, plus C. Now to get the C by itself, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So C is equal to 16 minus 4, which is 12. So now I have my formula. Therefore, Tn is equal to our B value, which is 4n, plus our C value, and our C value is 12. But now the question asked whether the number 100 would fall in that sequence. So now what we're going to do is we're going to replace the term value with 100. So I'm going to substitute 100 in place of the term value equal to 4n plus 12. Now I'm going to solve for n, and I'm going to see whether n is a whole number or if n is not a whole number. In order to solve for n, I'm going to take the 12 across, so 100 minus 12, which is 88, is equal to 4n. But I don't want the 4n I want the n by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So therefore, n is equal to 22. Now, 22 is a natural number, so therefore, that would mean that term 22, if I got up to 22 terms in the sequence, the value of term 22 would in fact be 100. If I had solved this and I got to this point over here, and I got, for example, n equals 22.5, then that would mean that it wouldn't be in the sequence. Alright, now what I'd like you to do is pause the video on this question, is 100 in the sequence 26, 30, 34, 38, and 42? And I would like you to attempt this question just like the example I just did. Alright, if we look at this, we're going to start by determining our formula. So we need our difference. So term 2 minus term 1, 30 minus 26 is 4, 34 minus 30 is 4, 38 minus 34 is 4, and 42 minus 38 is also 4. So now we can substitute into our formula. Tn is equal to Bn plus C. So the term value is 26, equal to the B value, which is 4, multiplied with the n, it's term number 1, so that's 1, plus C. So 26 is equal to 4 times 1, which is 4, plus C. So to get rid of the 4 or to isolate the C, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So therefore, C will equal 26 minus 4, which is 22. Therefore, I have Tn is equal to Bn, B is 4, n plus C, C is 22. But I want to determine whether the number 100 falls in that sequence. So that means that I'm going to replace the Tn with the number or the value 100. So 100 is equal to 4n plus 22. So now I'm either going to take 22 across, or I'm just going to subtract 22 from both sides, and I get an answer of 100 minus 22, which is 78, is equal to 4n. But I don't want 4n, I want the n by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So therefore, 4n divided by 4 is n, equal to 78 divided by 4 gets to 19.5. So now we can see that 19.5 is not a natural number. Therefore, 100 is not in the sequence. Because n must be a natural number and it cannot be a decimal or a fraction.